Test, test, test. Everyone, we'll get started. Welcome to the April 10th, 2025 BAR small meeting. My name is Lindsay Van Slambrook. I'll be your chairwoman this evening. Fellow board members present today are Daryl Cobb, Laura Altman, Becky Finno, and Bill Kerner. City staff present are Frankie Pinto, BARS administrator, and Travis Golly, senior preservation planner. Rachel's not sorry. No, you're fine. The order of today's meeting will be as follows. So for each application, we'll hear an introduction overview of the project by city staff for the benefit of the board and the public. This will be followed by the applicant's presentation. If you are the applicant, please approach the podium, state your name first and last for the record, and you'll have a 10-minute period of time to present your project. Anyone speaking for the applicant, so this would be owners, designers, consultants, should speak during this 10-minute period of time versus during public comment. By ordinance, the board can ask questions of the applicant at any time. By custom, we do so on the heels of the applicant's presentation. This will be followed by public comment. Any written public comment that was timely submitted in advance of the meeting has been provided to the board for review in advance. If you are speaking as a member of the public, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you. Please approach the podium, state your name first and last for the record, as well as your address if you're a neighbor. Once we've heard from the public, we'll hear city staff comments and recommendations. And then the applicant will have a 5-minute period of time after that to respond or clarify anything raised in the public comment or staff comments and recommendations. And once we have heard a response from the applicant, public comment and the applicant's presentation will be closed and we'll move to board discussion and a vote. Results will be posted online at the city's website. There have been no items withdrawn or deferred from the agenda this evening. And please remember to turn off your cell phones. And also that the purview of this board is architecture only. So any comments related to zoning, stormwater, livability are not within the purview of this board and should not be voiced here. Okay, agenda item A1, review of the minutes from the March 27th, 2025 meeting. I make a motion to approve with the edits I circulated to the board and staff earlier this afternoon. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Bill. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed. The motion passes unanimously. Agenda item B1, 59 Poplar Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction overview, please.
59 Poplar Street is in North Central Council District 4. It is a Category 4, Group 1, circa 1935, and the Historic Materials Demolition Purview. They are requesting after the fact approval of demolition. And that's it, the property's location on Poplar Street. I'm going to turn it over to the applicant. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot I had the next slide. We've swapped how we do things so Travis can click through and I can type notes. Sorry, we're figuring this out. We had some photos, so we included them in our context of existing site photos. There is a clicker up there. If you want to run the presentation, you just aim it at Travis's computer. And then I did have samples.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm Brett Schleifer with Static Development. This is Mike Smith, our architect with Tidewater. I know we spoke this morning on site with somebody else, but to bring you up to speed, we originally submitted a BAR application on November 20th, and it was to remove the at the time non-functioning chimney, as well as remove the unpermitted I guess they use it as a laundry room off the back of the house there, as well as change out siding, windows, doors, and roof. Permit, we were told we would not be able to remove the chimney, so we came back and left that in, and we're just going back to change exterior covering. Upon getting a permit issued February 13th, we began taking off exterior coverings February 25th. On March 4th, we realized that there had been extensive termite, fire, and water damage around the entire perimeter of the house. At at which point submitted a revision application, subsequently triggering a stop work order. On March 6th, building department came out to issue the stop work order as we were there and realized what we were looking at and got into. And at which point made a phone call to Gary Cope as well as BAR, and we were given permission to proceed as the stop work order was lifted. And it was to remove all damaged structural wood, which unfortunately was the entire exterior of the house. So we proceeded with that under the guise that we were told to proceed. And got a footing inspection on the 18th, and then on the 23rd, got a stop work order from BAR that it was out of the scope of work. And here we are.
The original intent of this project was to replace light and time and to replace windows and doors. And that was the original intent of this. It was not to demolish the structure by any means. The extent of damage between termite, water, fire, to make it structurally sound, yeah, the building pretty much had to come down for the most part. There is photographs of the damage of this structure, and now, yes, here we are.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
You said you got permission to remove coverings. What do you mean by coverings? Remove all siding, remove the roof, what?
Yes, so the siding, roof, doors and windows were in the original permit to be replaced.
True, Frankie?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So,
To be replaced like in kind.
okay, in kind.
Yes.
Okay. And all of these were in deteriorated enough condition to come out?
They were.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank y'all. Do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Again, I'm Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We have reviewed the application for 59 Poplar Street, initiate the VAR visit this morning to decide. We're incredibly disappointed to see an after the fact demolition request of this nature. Charleston's historic fabric is being compromised because of reckless and unpermitted actions like the one of this applicant. I understand there was procedural confusion, but it does not justify the illegal demolition of historic property and violates Charleston's preservation standards that protect the architectural and cultural values of our city. We requested the city look into increased penalties for illegal demolition of historic material because once it's gone forever. And we respectfully request that approval not be given tonight for the after the fact demolition application, and that the applicant make every effort possible to restore the structure to its original form. Thank you.
Lauren Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. After the fact demolition requests have become all too common in historic neighborhoods north of Line Street. While we did not have the benefit of reviewing the background presented by staff in advance, it is clear that something went wrong and a change in practice is needed to ensure that project teams are not exceeding their permitted scope of work and in the process destroying irreplaceable architectural heritage and materials. The PSC is heartbroken by the preventable loss of the circa 1934 historic bungalow in the North Central neighborhood. What the application materials made available to the public did not show is the extent of unauthorized demolition that occurred beyond the approved scope of work. This house has been completely destroyed, and all that is left is the brick porch supports and chimney. It is incredibly alarming that all historic material has already been removed from the site. The community clearly shares our concerns with 6 comments in opposition submitted via the portal that we hope the board has had the opportunity to read. The message we want to reiterate to homeowners and the development community is that the BAR process is intended as a resource for providing important guidance on best practices and responsible, safe rehabilitation of historic buildings. This loss could have been avoided through better communication with city staff and respect for the demolition review process. While the board can require reconstruction, the loss of historic materials cannot be undone. We ask the board to deny after the fact demolition and require the applicant to work closely with staff to ensure accurate reconstruction of this building in its previous form using authentic materials and details, incorporating any salvaged historic material. Thank you.
Do we have anyone else speaking? Okay, Frankie, if you give the city staff comments and recommendations, please.
First of all, Travis gets through that slide. Staff has a little bit more information on timeline, though, not all that the applicant had. There was a permit issued back in February, for siding replacement. It did also include windows and doors. That was reviewed by staff to be replaced like an in-kind. There was a revised permit application to include exterior framing due to termites. A stop work order was issued by the building department, March 7th for exceeding the scope of the permit. And we did receive a revised application that included the framing and full scale renovation. A separate stop work order, this stop work order through building was rectified, but the BAR issues were not, and I believe that's where the miscommunication came in for the applicant. Because it wasn't clarified to them that it was only the building issues that had been rectified. A separate stop work order was issued by BAR for work beyond the scope. And they were given that would have to go to BAR small. The applicant came in and met with us about how to proceed and what their path forward would be, and then subsequently applied for the meeting. So as far as staff conditions for approval, it won't be staff conditions are. The remaining brick columns should be stabilized to prevent further loss of structure. We recommend the structure be rebuilt as was per the provided drawings, retaining original material where available. And we have been asked for any board motion for after the fact to include a timeline, require resubmittals. So you'll see this comment in several things tonight and going forward, that we request whatever motion you have to include a timeline. Staff recommendation is a denial of after the fact demolition, but approval of the provided drawings for reconstruction with the staff condition.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Smith and Mr. Schleifer, that's it, right? Do you want to respond to or clarify anything in the public comment to the city staff comments? Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or in the city staff comments and recommendations?
I'm hard of hearing, I'm sorry.
Again, I mean, our intent was not to destroy a historic structure or anything like that. If you actually look at the drawings, the structure that is presented within the drawings is the same structure that was there. It was to replace like in kind, with the intent of redesigning the interior of the structure. But the exterior was to remain the same. Besides windows being replaced and changed to reflect the new floor plan. Other than that, our intent was not to destroy something by any means. Anything else, Brad?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and vote.
One question for Frankie. So Frankie, it was replacing siding and replacing windows. It was not for all other building trim or porch decking or roof ceiling,
My notes just
window
said,
trim?
my notes just said siding, but I do know they were changing, siding material from wood to hardy for the replacement policy. Then my assumption would be that was included as well.
Mhm.
But I am not the one that reviewed the permit, so I don't know off the top of my head.
When you say it was a hardy, was that the thicker hardy? Okay. And with the replacement, were there, you know, if the permit allowed moving windows? Because the drawings show windows in a lot of different locations than what are shown on the pictures.
I don't think any windows were approved to be.
That would have required our.
Moved. That would have, yeah, that would have required board approval.
Okay, this is very unfortunate. I'm, you know, kind of sickens me that we keep seeing these things over and over again. It seems like the Upper Peninsula is kind of the wild, wild west. We don't seem to have these issues further down. Yeah, I have worked on countless old buildings myself, and what you do with buildings like this, you work on them from the inside out. You go in there, you take out what you have to take out, while at the same time putting back in, maintain the structural integrity. You do a lot of sistering, and you don't just knock it down. You methodically go through on the interior and replace so that you don't have to knock the whole thing down. You know, I picked up on the same things as Laura. There's the drawings that have been submitted is not, a lot of the things are not the way that the building existed before, you know. Window placements have moved around. The front door position has changed. I picked up on some other minor things like the express brick foundation piers are no longer expressed. So I think that this thing does need to go back 100% like it went back, like it was before, down to every nail and screw. And only then, after it has been put back 100%, may the applicant come in and make application to play musical windows if he wants to. And we will review it at another meeting. But I feel very strongly this thing needs to go back 100% the way it was. Like I said, down to the nail and screw, every single detail.
I agree, and I also picked up on the roof line being the gable all the way across. If you look in the photos, the rear portion was a later addition, probably, like, and also based on looking at the foundation this morning. And so that roof is a little bit lower. Even those little things, as much as we can pull from the photos, make sure it matches. Just,
I agree.
just,
Yes. Deferral, denial of after the fact demolition request with the following conditions. Let's see. Revise the drawings to accurately reflect the pre-existing design and build accordingly with no deviations. Okay. And the revised drawings are to be submitted to staff within 10 days of tonight's date. And no work on site is to continue until all approvals are in place. And the chimney and front porch columns are all to be stabilized immediately.
We have a motion on the floor. Did you pretty much hit the staff conditions?
Yeah, I think so.
All right, we have then a motion on the floor for denial of after the fact demolition with some board conditions. First, for the revised drawings to accurately reflect the existing design with no deviation. 2, that the revised drawing should be submitted within 10 days of this meeting. 3, no work is to be performed on the site until submission of the drawings and approval by staff. 4, the chimney and the columns to be stabilized immediately. 2,
Of course, that can happen. You know. Immediately.
Can you provide where it says the design to match the existing? Instead of using the word existing, use original
the historic,
Or pre-existing.
or something.
the pre-existing design.
Yeah,
Okay. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second it.
The motion to a vote. Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Becky, Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Laura.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. All right, agenda item 2, 97 Gordon Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please. Frankie's going to give a brief introduction, but
So 97 Gordon Street is in Wagner Terrace, Council District 6. It is a category 4, group 2, circa 1948 in historic materials demolition permit. We have this one photo to locate. And then I will turn it over to the applicant.
So good to see y'all again. I apologize for the hat. It's been a long day. I didn't have a chance to get home and take a shower, but so I am asking for removal of the parts of the roof. You should have another drawing. It shows
You can use
sections.
the clicker, or I can go for it.
What's that?
You can use the clicker to go forward. Can you introduce yourself?
Sir?
Can you introduce yourself?
Excuse me, I'm Trey King. Sorry. So there you can see, we have 2 chimneys. I'm aware of the value of those 2 chimneys, and I'm doing my best here to respect the 2 things that I know that y'all, or at least the two of the many things I'm sure you're concerned about, but I am asking, I'm gonna leave both chimneys. The one chimney that is actually connected to a fireplace, we're, I think, 3 or 4 feet off of it. The second chimney that's in the middle there, again, goes to nothing. It's just an old furnace, but we can frame around that. This morning when we met, you know, what I'm asking for is to not go any higher than the ridge that we already have, but go flush with it. I do now understand that you want to preserve that look, that the ridge that goes from front to back, and I get that. My 2 problems, well, really 3, are the head height that I currently have in the attic. They're 2x6 or ceiling joists now. Those are going to turn into floor joists. My idea was to at least go 2x8 and sister next to those so that they're, stronger. The chimney's about 10 inches below the ridge. I can frame around it with the dormer that we be putting in to create the bedrooms upstairs. But to come down any further towards that chimney, to keep that ridge line here and start a new roof of a dormer below that, leaves me really very little room to be able to flash around that chimney to make sure it doesn't leak. And then every inch that I go down with a new, what would be a ceiling joist, lowers that 8 feet 2 inches that I have right now. So by the time that I get to that exterior wall, we're definitely going to be below, what a normal ceiling height would be. I did look at I think maybe both of y'all about the soffit and the design. I can make sure that does not change. That dormer will go to the exterior wall, like I was telling you this morning, and it'll sit on that load bearing wall because it can't sit inside and sit on what's already going to be a stressed out floor joist eventually. So that's what I'm asking for. 2 feet in from the right side of the house. I think we're 4 feet in from the left side chimney, keeping the chimney, both chimneys that are there, We're not touching anything else that's in your purview. No front, nothing else. The windows were changed, I think, 10 years ago, she said, maybe 12. No handrails, no nothing else, just the roof. And those are my between a rock and a hard place issues, is ceiling height and then being able to flash around that chimney so that the water doesn't come in.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
No.
All right, do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Bay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciated the opportunity to visit the site this morning and speak with the applicant. However, we are not supportive of the heavy-handed scope of the proposed demolition that includes removal of the vast majority of the historic roof and significantly changes the characteristic form of this property. We request that the applicant minimize the scope of the proposed roof demolition, concentrate the proposed removal towards the rear of the property, and maintain the roof's existing ridgeline while preserving as much historic material as possible. Thank you.
Hi, Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We've reviewed the application for 97 River Street. We also appreciate this EAR site visit this morning. We recommend that the applicant reduce the demolition request for the roof sections. As it stands, the applicant is requesting to remove almost 70% of the roof, which will dramatically impact the form and character of the house. In addition, any removal that is permitted should occur below the roof ridge, not adjacent to it, in order to differentiate the original roof line from that of the dormers. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else speaking? Okay, Frankie, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
So staff have previously supported small portions of demolition of the roof, such as those that would do for dormers. And chimneys are a character defining feature and should be retained. Staff conditions for approval, reduce size of demolition. The area of demolition should be below the ridge and not extend all the way to the eave. And a comment, I said we had several of these I was going to be adding. Any area of anytime we approve demolition, there is an appeal period because board approvals can be appealed. So we have been told demo permits must wait 30 days before approval, and it is a legal issue. So I've added that to our demo. Staff recommendation is a deferral for restudy with staff comments.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. King, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment, the city staff comments and recommendations?
Can y'all hear me okay over there? Can everyone hear? Because I cannot hear really what their comments were. Am I gonna be able to get that in writing so I can at least try to?
I will have bullet points.
Okay.
So
What did you just say?
I just read the comments that were up here.
Oh.
And I explained why they hadn't seen the one about our appeal period issue.
Came down from legal.
It's come down from legal, and it's just something that I have added so people understand with a
Okay.
permit like this. It's normally permit review time, but it's
Okay.
just for clarity for the board and the
Should I
public.
ask you the questions right now for your staff conditions? Like,
This
I
is,
get the reduction of demo. You just want it to be, you don't want me to take. I mean, I get it, the framing of that home is considered historic, but the shingles aren't. So, but I do understand you want a smaller percentage of the roof gone. But when you say you don't want it to extend all the way to the eave, you want me to kick it back off of the load-bearing wall of the exterior of the house?
we haven't made a decision yet, so we'll move into board discussion and talk through
Okay,
the staff comments and we'll give our,
I just don't know how to
decision.
do that and carry a load 2 feet inside of a load-bearing wall. And I get what you're saying, I just don't know how practical that is, but that's my response to that. So that So we're good on chimneys. You want me to believe to be below the ridge? How is it? Are we talking about 2 inches or what are we talking about? What is below the ridge that is an approved, that's acceptable?
We'll talk about
Oh,
that
you
in more
will?
discussion. Yeah, this is your response period before we move into our discussion and decision. So this isn't the decision yet. This is just the staff recommendation. I can tell. All right, the applicant's presentation and public comment is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. This, I think in general, this is larger than anything that we have approved percentage wise. And we have started over the past probably year and a half approving dormers in this area of town, but a much lower percentage of the roof.
Yeah, I do agree that, the roof cut needs to be reduced. The question is how much, you know, I assume these are for dormers. We don't get to say what goes back in this part of town. I think, was it 40 feet? I think that's a great number there. I understand, you know, that, it would be difficult to bring the dormers in further without doing some major structural work. So to me, it kind of makes sense that they rest on the.
Depending on the exterior material on that, if it's say a shiplap or something, then you would still be able to see that roof.
Yeah,
So.
but
as
you don't have
opposed to
the
brick
thickness
going
of the brick veneer.
Right.
Yeah, so.
I agree. I also think it's very important to maintain the ridge. I think that's feasible with being a little more creative on the structural framing, whether you go to more 2x8s or whatever, but as long as the room has at least 50% that's 7 feet or greater, it meets code, right? I think it would be a good idea for the applicant to look back at the project we had at our last meeting. 51 Peachtree was a good example where the dormer was set behind the chimney, behind the smaller chimney, and more towards the rear of the house. It was just a well done proposal and design. So I think it's perfectly feasible at a reduced scope.
Yeah, nothing to add. I think you summed it up well.
I move for deferral or restudy of the dormer size and location,
Demolition size.
demolition size, sorry. There's not a dormer there yet. To maintain visibility of the ridge. And I'm gonna say 6 inches. And to maintain the visibility of the eave. Did I cover everything?
Frank, did
You
you
covered
read
the width.
that comment that you guys are wanting now about?
No, not yet. That's just if approved.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll just, in part of our motions, and I remember this too, that if something is approved, the applicant must wait 30 days. And that way the permit department will see that. Okay,
Can you read it back in case I've forgotten something?
always, yes. We have a motion on the floor for deferral for restudy of the demolition size and location to maintain visibility of the ridge by 6 inches and the eave.
And to move, and the length to be reduced.
I think we need to give him some guidance on how much to reduce it.
It needs to be behind the little chimney.
All right.
You can, maybe Lindsay can work it better than me. Even then, you're probably 45% of the roof.
We have a motion on the floor for deferral for restudy of the size and location of the demolition to maintain visibility of the ridge by 6 inches and visibility of the eave, and the location of demolition should fall behind the small chimney. Okay, do I have a second to Laura's motion?
I'll second it.
Daryl, I'll put the motion to a vote. Bill,
Yay in favor.
Becky,
Yay in favor.
Laura,
Yay in favor.
Daryl.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 3.8, Donald Place. Frank, you'll give us an introduction, overview of the project, please.
Informal Place is in North Central Council District 4. It is a category 4, two, circa 1920 in New York Vigorous demolition purview. They are requesting a partial demolition, including a rear screen porch and stair, 5 windows and 2 doors, and a portion of rear roof. This is the property's location on Humboldt. And then I will turn it over to the applicants.
It is Joel Adrian with Coastal Creek, designer for 8 Hummel. So let's go to, this is the tough part, it's just demolition, so hopefully we have described well here on this sheet, the scope of what we are wanting to remove. Looking at the roof plan, I think that it's important to note that I believe, actually I know, this portion here is not original. I believe that was original. Our house was this beautiful little hip roof and this low porch that hipped around. Our proposal is to maintain, that left side of the house that has not been impacted. That corner will be fully expressed. Our addition is going to step in just like the porch does. The right-hand side has already been jacked with. We were just going to continue with that existing line for the addition, but not impact anything on the front elevation. So I think the front elevation tells the whole story as to what was original and what was added. And I believe that the important thing to remember here is that that front elevation will not change. We're not looking to remove anything that is right up front on the public right of way. And then here showing the items that we are looking to remove. Again, the porch at the rear, I don't believe is original. The window that we're requesting to be removed on that side elevation, I don't believe is original either. Part of that addition that was put onto the house. And then the rear, the majority of all the removal is happening on the rear, which is outside of the public home. We're trying to remain sensitive. That one window there would be removed. It is part of the original house. I believe that is, you look at the front porch and then all the way back till you get to that rear little porch piece. That should have been the footprint of our original home. So we're doing our best to stay sensitive to that and still improve the property. Maintaining roof form, chimney, tucking our addition behind what's there.
Any questions for the applicant?
Quick question on the demo plan. You can go back to that for just a minute. So like it calls out for this little piece of the original wall back here to be removed, not just the screen porch.
So I don't believe that's part of the original house right there. I think
That's all right.
I think our house was with this porch here, and this was an addition that was done. You can see the thickness of that wall is consistent straight down. This was added at some point with that horrible low pitch shed roof.
Piece. This one here.
Yeah, he's just saying that that's not part of the original house.
When did you say that addition was built?
I'd say I don't have, I didn't have to do the historical data research on this one here, because I was like, it's all basically my demolitions on the back, and I'm like, it's not a purview or the public realm, and so I was like, it should be safe.
Frankie, do you know how old that addition is?
I do not, unfortunately.
Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, that, that corner we're just talking about, that the bump out on the southeast corner. So were you not gonna step whatever you're doing in from that corner and preserve a piece of that? back corner
No,
or-
so our proposed is, was to be fully off of this right-hand side.
Okay,
And just stepping in a little further on the left side, so we
Gotcha.
maintain this corner.
now that, are you aligning whatever you're building? And of course, we don't get to say what. Are you aligning that, are you coming off the corner of the downstairs or that kind of overhanging wart that's on the top?
So we are proposing to come off of this corner here. And then to continue the beautiful cantilever. And then that extends that
Okay.
fabulous feature.
Some call it a beautiful cantilever, others call it a wart. Any other questions? Thank you, Joel.
Okay.
Is there anyone speaking from the public? All right, Frankie, if you'll give the city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Okay, staff had, well, actually I was looking for a clarification. It looked like there was a portion of the rear wall, which was indicated on the plans it was being removed, but on the elevation, it was only indicating the windows, so we just wanted that clarified. Windows are a character defining feature and should be retained. We're talking about the ones which are visible from public rights of way. The rear east corner is being retained per the submittal drawings. And if further documentation was provided for the age of the rear porch, staff would be supportive of demolition at the first floor. Staff condition is again, if approved, we have to have 30 days before we can approve any demolition permit. But our recommendation is denial is submitted.
Thank you, Frankie. Joel, do you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the city staff comments and recommendations?
Sure, thank you. I can certainly, if approved, would provide further documentation. And then if something showed that there was an original footprint that was incorrect on, we would most certainly come back here for a full review. But I don't feel like I'm incorrect with what I've been seeing on the structure. So I would ask for your approval as well as staff on the drawings for permit.
All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. Should we address each side?
Yeah. so-
I mean, maybe the hardest one first, the rear.
Um, It's occurring where we normally ask for these things to occur, on the backside of the building. I don't have a lot of issues with what's,
Removing the porch.
what you in the back.
Yeah. And I think it was modern.
I think it's a modern, yeah.
It was modern construction.
That upstairs, Joel, on the historic portion on the rear, is it just the window you're removing? It's not, it's not that wall.
That's where Frankie's talking about the discrepancy.
That's what the aerial looks like. It includes that upstairs.
It's the whole walls of the back of the house, taking off the back.
Okay, so the new roof is stepping
so
in,
yeah.
gonna kick over here, but all of this is gonna
All
get
go away.
extended to the rear.
Okay. Thank you.
And I have no issue with the side windows either. So, there was, what, one on each side or?
There's two on the left elevation.
Yeah.
That top one.
Yeah,
front one.
yeah.
And there's that one.
And there's one on the opposite side too, smaller one.
Yeah, that one.
This one here.
So you're okay with all the sides?
I'm okay with it.
And then what about the rear?
I'm fine with the rear as well. it's happening where, I mean, I understand that these buildings have to kind of grow sometimes to meet modern living, and grow to the rear is the logical place, and it's out of the public view. I think makes sense, that's where it happens.
Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion of final approval with the inclusion of staff comment.
I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna say that your motion is final approval with board condition that the project must wait.
Okay.
Yeah, so we have a motion on the floor for final approval as submitted with a board condition that the project must wait, the applicant must wait 30 days, the 30-day appeal period for permit approval. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
I'll second.
Daryl, we'll put the motion to vote. Becky,
Yay in favor.
Laura,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair vote to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 4, 63 Ashley Avenue. Frankie, if you give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
63 Ashley Avenue. You make sure the crowd leaves. '63 Ashley Avenue is in Charleston Village Council District 6. It is a category 4, circa 1872 in the Old Historic District. They're requesting conceptual approval for a new addition, double piazza, and new double porch at rear of addition. And this is property location on Ashley Avenue. And then we'll give it back to Joel.
Thank you again, Joel Adrian, with Coastal Creek for 63 Ashley. We were here maybe 2 months ago, I guess, and received the approval to elevate the structure. And now we're back because we've had time to go to zoning, go to the site plan existing survey. We were able to go to zoning last month and get approval for the setback variance that's necessary. As you can see, this house doesn't conform with our setbacks for zoning. And this is our proposed site plan. Things to note. So this, I'll show you actually what we were submitting to zoning. You can see the dark hatched area was the areas that we needed our zoning approval for. The other apartments within the setback. Again, trying to maintain the historic structure up front and not take away from it. The addition does sit fully behind the footprint of what is there, and believe that we've started, our study of stepping down the massing when we get to that point. Some of the maps and things for y'all. Here's our history timeline, which we continue to do on all projects now. And then Sanborn maps. We'll get to I think picture. Actually, I'll go back. So on the Sanborn map, I think when you look at like the original, that piazza along the left side was full length, ran all the way to the front of the structure. It was 2-story. When we were here for our request for elevating, we were asked if we were going to reestablish that. We did say we would, and you'll see that we are reestablishing the double piazza house. And so we are going to just cycle through some of these here and get to what we're looking at today. So here is our floor plan. Top one is our existing, what's currently there. Below it is what our proposed floor plan will be, our addition. For the most part, it is the great room on the back and kind of the connection of a mudroom. But the main entry, we were foreseeing the main entry really isn't going to be on the piazza part. It's going to be down going in by the kitchen. This lot is left side loaded for parking. and it'd be tandem parking on it. Second floor is gonna become some bedrooms, provide an actual primary suite on the backside with a little porch to be able to get outside, porch off of the great room. I guess I should have mentioned that on this one here. And we'll get to obviously roof plan. And then the sections that we have just showing that we're elevating. And here is the front. What we presented at the previous meeting is what's above, and then the really not any difference to what we're maintaining on the front. We were asked to the front foundation wall to be brick. And so we are saving brick on the site right now. If you go by, you'll see there's a nice little stack of brick on the left-hand side along the fence. So that will get put along the front and be the front stair. And one of the other comments was the height of the steps all being exposed on the front. So we've put it back to where there's a couple steps, open the piazza door, go in, hit the rest of the steps to get up to the actual first floor. And now we're looking at right side, existing, proposed. Changing the materials as it goes back so that we can again distinguish what was there before. We are looking to try to add that double window on the existing structure. Rear elevation, what's existing, what our proposal is. We would get to the left side elevation. And I think that it's important to note that this lot is skinny and deep, and this is, really pushing back. You certainly will get views probably of all of this along your lake looking back. But I think that the way that it steps in and out to try to distinguish different massing and preserve what was historic up front, I believe we've been successful. Up to you. And I will answer your questions as John might.
Yeah, the one-story addition that's there now. So you're planning on lifting that and putting a new second floor on top of that. Is that really all worth it? I mean, it seems like you would just start over.
So we'd be happy to demolish that part. But I did not ask for that initially.
You're pretty much demolishing it now.
But at this point, he's going to lift it and work with it. Not like our first application, we're not going to just take it down without giving you a look at it, talking about it. So,
Well, you're also reclamming it and stuff.
but we are reclaiming because it was not original. So our thought was, hey, let's take our opportunity to make this our transition piece from what was there. And actually, when you look at those Sanborn maps, this part here, the original house, I think, was just this little square, then this came, and then this little piece showed up, and then that little piece showed up. And then there used to be a beautiful little walkway that came across here at some point, and all different levels.
Other question, can you flip to the front elevation? Travis or Joel? One of the two.
Oh, are you doing or me doing?
That was you.
Okay. There it is.
You have looks like you have a,
Might be able to see better. Okay.
yeah. It looks like you've got a pretty mean slope on that upper piazza. Is there anything that's driving that?
No, other than that's what it looked like as we were working with, but no, I could certainly, change that to quarter good.
It just might make it more usable.
Any other questions?
I have a question. On the north elevation where you're adding windows along the original portion of the house, it seems like that's pretty close to the property line. So are you able to do that for fire code? I noticed that the other part of the addition is set away from the setbacks or away from the property line a little bit.
That was intentional because of the fire code needed to be at least 3 feet off to have an opening in the inside of the wall. So we'll have to restudy that.
And then even being 3 feet off, you might need to check the percentage of opening allowed. I can't remember the
So-
details.
So you're allowed, yes, so you're allowed 25% of your wall surface.
And then my other question, I didn't quite understand. I didn't realize the house was being lifted, and that may have been approved when I wasn't here. I'm just as an alternate.
I've forgotten when I reviewed it.
But the, like the height from your, on any of these elevations, the height all looks the same. So is existing showing that already elevated for flood?
So what we did was, because we received that approval for elevating it at that height, that's what we
Okay.
used as our existing drawing.
Okay,
We didn't show you how the addition was gonna tie into that.
Got it.
But when we first came for the elevating, I had it put too high, so we did lower it, so it's basically right, it's right at that design flood.
thank you.
I have one question. I couldn't tell from the dimensions. Is the south face of the addition aligned with the south face of the existing building?
So it, I'm going in the right direction here. So when you look at here, this piece steps back from this here, but then this and this would be the same
In the
plane.
same height? Okay.
Any other questions? Right, thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
Well, I am with the Preservation Society of Charleston. This proposal represents a drastic increase in massing to the site, and overall, the height, scale, mass, and footprint of the hyphen and addition need to be more subordinate to the historic house. The hyphen height should be below the historic eave, the height and footprint of the addition reduced, and the scale of the fenestration restudied so it doesn't overpower that of the primary historic building. Further, it is unclear how much historic material is intact on the one-story addition, which should be confirmed before alterations are considered. The existing chimney at the rear of the historic house also appears to date to at least the 1930s based on historic photographs provided, and the PSC would encourage the project team to retain this feature. Given the significant restudy needed on this project, we ask the board to deny this request. Thank you.
Hey, Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We've reviewed the application for 63 Ashley, and we feel similar to the Preservation Society. The scale of the addition is too big. Specifically, the length of the total addition appears to exceed the length of the original structure. In addition, the height of the hyphen is not subordinate and needs to be lower than the eave of the historic roof. The roof of the hyphen should be a shed roof that slants toward the south. Furthermore, the height of the new structure in the back is not clearly subordinate to the historic structure. One way to accomplish this reduction in height could be to make the rear addition 1.5 stories with potentially the addition of dormers. We recommend further study of the hyphen's height and the length of the total addition. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? All right, Frankie, if you'll give us any staff comments and recommendations, please.
First, staff had a couple observations. One, that a variance was approved March 18th. Second, the proposal is not subordinate to the addition, the existing. The addition should be below the existing eave, and the chimney is character defining feature and should be retained. And conditions for approval, additional evidence is needed for the proposed fenestration changes on the reestablished piazza. Staff would recommend either maintaining existing fenestration, providing evidence for how it's proposed, or propose a more traditional fenestration pattern. Two, the height of the new hyphen and reduce the height of the new hyphen and rear addition. The parapet shouldn't project through the existing roof. We recommend lowering to be below the existing eave. Restudy new parapet, should not create a false narrative by matching the existing parapet on the one-story addition. Restudy fenestration on new rear addition south facade. I've got the BER principle on the size and frequency of windows. And then remove the new window on the existing building, the north facade. Staff recommendation is a deferral for restudy with staff and board commissions.
Thank you, Frankie. Joel, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the city staff comments? Public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Hey, I'll go ahead and get, I think I'm gonna break my comments down to historic mass tradition. On the historic mass, it's pretty obvious that the house originally had a full-length piazza. And have no issue with one going back. What's out there now is pretty strange. It just doesn't fit the building. And I don't see any reason to preserve that. The piazza screen wall, or the piazza itself needs some massaging. The front of the piazza, the screen wall needs to kind of come in, set back from the face of the building as they're traditionally done. And then on the side, also the side of the piazza, proposed piazza needs to step in and clear that corner board there at the dining room corner. So yeah, the piazza needs a little bit more massaging. The lanterns on each side of the piazza door, they seem overscaled, kind of crowded. The piazza screen wall has a good bit of height to it. So yeah, you could even go up with a transom above the door and maybe do some sort of a hanging light above the door coming off of the hood. Might be some option. The stairs that are cut to the inside of the piazza, they should probably be widened out to the full length of the piazza to kind of get rid of that kind of strange, a little leftover sliver of porch there. I don't know if this would be an option. I'll throw it out there, Joel, but the existing door surround that's on the building now, maybe you look at maybe recycling that onto the piazza screen. Kind of preserves a little bit of the evolution of the building. Just something to look at. May not work. Let's see, what else do I have? I mentioned this a lot when not having turned metal anymore for roofs, and we use the steel metal roofs. There's a lot that you can hide way up in the air with these steel roofs. As far, the crimping is never as refined as we used to see on the turn metal. And so I always encourage on these piazza screen hoods where they're lower to the ground where you can actually see them, just to use copper. It's malleable and you can get a much more closer resemblance to an old turn metal than using the clunky steel so close to the ground. And if you choose, you can always paint the copper. The window composition, window door composition on the piazzas, I think that needs more study. Maybe try to bring some uniformity to them and maybe more back into a traditional format. What might have not exactly what was there, but closer to what was there. Right now, the configuration looks a little bit disjointed. And then I agree with what Laura was talking about earlier, eliminating the double windows on the north side. I believe that's the dining room. That's sort of an atypical condition for a north side of a single house. And then as far as the addition, I'm not gonna say a lot about the addition because I think the addition is a do-over. Mostly a do-over, especially the trying to save the one-story portion, elevating it, and then adding a second story to it, and then adding to the front of that as well. I went out there on site and the addition is that the one-story addition that's out, it's not that nice. It looks like it was put on, you know, probably as maybe to a game room for a kitchen or something one time. It was never meant to be anything nice. And, you know, I always push for preservation of historic elements, but sometimes just because something's old, it doesn't necessarily worth saving. So I think trying to do what Joel's trying to do with that one-story addition is hampering the whole addition, you know. I think if that came off, then a more appropriately scaled piping could be designed, set in off of the north wall. And I think the whole flavor of that addition there's so many more options that could happen if that one-story addition came on. So I'm just going to keep that just sort of a general comment for the addition. And I do, and like what the preservation group said, the whole addition is just way overscaled. It all needs to, it's just bigger than the historic house itself. It completely dwarfs it. And the ridge line is not much farther down than the historic structure as well. So I feel strongly that that's a do-over in the back. Sorry if I rambled too much.
Said everything.
I've had a lot of similar comments. I was sort of wondering about the age and loss of the one-story portion. And the chimney, basically.
In the chimney, yeah.
But yeah, I think the heighting is really kind of the most cumbersome looking part of it. Because we really usually it's pretty stuck it on for you.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think that's an odd situation.
I think the eave height, the footprint needs to come in a little, the eave height needs to come down to be below the existing and be more subordinate.
Okay.
Do we have some consensus on a motion? Bill?
Anything else to add?
I think you covered it.
And I think a lot of it can be board. I don't think we need to, I think we can tell Joel the board discussion
I
too,
think
but
board discussion without listing everything. I think Joel's been through here enough. He kind of
I
knows.
was right at it,
He knows.
let's see, are there any of the staff conditions that you just didn't agree with at all?
I disagree with the comments on the piazza. I think I don't think we don't know what was there, although we know the footprint of the piazza.
So take out one.
Yeah.
So Bill, did you make a motion for deferral for restudy with
Discussion.
board discussion? And staff conditions 2 through 6.
I'd like to ask Joel a question. Joel, did you have a question?
No, I said, your motion would include demolition of one-story element.
I'm comfortable with that. Is everyone else comfortable with that?
Demo
With the one-story structure
How
there?
about that's a board comment that we would be in favor if that came back of a demo? Because I don't think the demo is. I don't think the demo is before us, so I don't think we
We
can.
did not advertise a demo.
Yeah, I don't think we can approve it.
I like what you said.
Yeah.
The board comment that we would be open to that.
I think staff's comment is really on the fenestration that's happening.
Oh, okay.
That wasn't really resolved or, it wasn't. That was. additional evidence is needed for this demonstration on the behalf of. So there was
And
some
more
comment
traditional.
about maintaining the existing demonstration.
And
So-
then the very top of the one,
So do you think
propose
they
more
need this
traditional.
study that, look at that?
It's kind of what you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
So leave it one.
Yeah, and Frankie, with that also, when you were talking about the piazza fenestration, were you talking about the windows and doors and all?
All right. So we have a motion on the floor for deferral for restudy with staff conditions and board discussion and a board comment that the board will consider demolition of the first story addition. The one story, not the first story, the one story addition. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
I second it.
The motion to be a vote. Laura,
Yay in favor.
Daryl,
Yeah, in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor?
Becky.
Yay in favor.
The majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 5, 440 Sumter Street, Frankie. Please give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
I would request that given recent findings, this project be deferred to a later date. I need to consult with the council before I present.
I'll make a motion to defer.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes
Thank you.
unanimously. Okay. All right, agenda item 6, 290 Ashley Avenue. Frankie, if you give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
Second, I'm trying to get everything down. Move fast. Okay, 290 Ashley Avenue in West Side, Council District 6. It is unrated circa 1935 in the historic materials demolition purview. They are requesting demolition of the structure. They're showing the location on Ashley. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Pasha Sadigan, representing Animal Properties LLC. My dad, the owner, is sitting over there. I will be representing him today. I'm requesting approval for the demolition of the structure located at 290 Ashley Avenue. Originally built in 1885, the request is driven primarily by substantial structural concerns and safety hazards, as well as feasibility of preservation. Focusing on the structural condition and the safety of the current building, RK engineers and builders who are structural engineers conducted a thorough inspection and documented the following. I'll go to their report very quickly. That's the beginning of the report. They found the following. First, severely rotted sill beams, floor joists, and studs. Second, they found failed brick and CMU piers, providing inadequate support. I'm going to take you through the photos that they provide in the report very quickly, if they have some visual. Also, so that the audience can see as well. Thirdly, the engineer report found an active city issued unsafe, do not enter or occupy notice. This is in page 5. If I can go, I have a very nice photo of that. I'm not sure if you need to see it, but there it is. And the report emphasized immediate safety risks of the structure. We also went ahead and got a second professional opinion. Paul Curry of Curry Engineers independently reviewed photographic evidence and confirmed that demolition is justified due to structural deterioration. And he is prepared to provide us with a second report, structural report. A copy of my email correspondence, if I can provide it to Ms. Frankie. This is not included in the original packet, or I can just not do that.
I give it to Frankie.
Moving on to the feasibility of repair. Both engineers, especially the one whose report is included in our packet, conclude that repair is impractical and cost prohibitive, and demolition is strongly recommended. This is laid out in the first page of the report on page 21, right here. I'll leave that there for you. Give you a few seconds. Moving on to the historic character of the house, assessing the historic character. Severe deterioration has stripped the building of meaningful architectural integrity, rendering preservation unfeasible. Virtually all original architectural elements, such as siding, piers, and porches, are extensively damaged or completely lost. And this is the only time that I'm going to take you through a number of pages, then I'll just conclude my presentation. So I'm going to take you through some photos of, so you can get a feel of what I mean by the architectural integrity. We saw that, or we saw this. This is the right side of the building. This is again the right side of the building. You can see there's no facade left. Some of the other issues that have been laid out. This is the rear of the building. Again, the facade. I don't know if it's clear in the photos here, but it's the facade is completely gone. This is what's remaining. This is all gone. And some more zoomed in photo. You can see here extensive damage, and also the issues that were reported by the engineers. Of course, you have a copy of this report, and my final picture of the left side of the building. And before I give you my conclusion, some additional information on the structure. I believe it was originally 1,464 square foot at some point in the past, prior to my father purchasing the house in 2020. I don't know when exactly. Part of the house was demoed, we were told, with permission. And right now it sits at 1,220 square foot. It used to have 3 beds, 2 baths. Now it has 2 beds and 1 bath. For my conclusion, given the safety hazards, structural deficiencies, and expert evaluations, I respectfully request approval for full demolition of the structure.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Do you know when the house was last lived in?
I actually do not, but it's been vacant for quite some time, well before we purchased the house. Yes, sir. I don't know the exact answer to that.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Sedekian. Do we have anyone speaking from the public?
Laurel Fay with the Preservation Society of Charleston. The PSC appreciated the chance to visit the site this morning. This Freedman's Cottage is an early survivor of the West Side neighborhood that speaks to the developmental history of this street, which was severed by the construction of the Crosstown Expressway in the mid-20th century. Freedman's cottages are a rapidly disappearing vernacular architectural form in Charleston. Based on past surveys, there may be fewer than 100 of these cottages left on the peninsula, underscoring the impacts of increasing developmental pressures. The good news is we have seen Freedman's cottages in similar condition brought back to life, and recently celebrated the rehabilitation of 5 Shepherd Street with the PSC Carolopolis Award. The PSC has documentation of 290 Ashley's deteriorated condition from over a decade ago, and it is unfortunate that this historic cottage has been left to languish. Despite advanced deterioration on the south side of the building where the porch was infilled, there is a path forward for preservation of the most intact historic portions that will allow this building's form to remain as an integral part of this streetscape. We urge swift action to stabilize the structure. This will allow time to carefully assess what material can and cannot be saved and work with staff to develop an appropriate scope of demolition and rehabilitation that preserves as much historic material as possible. We ask the board to deny this request and stipulate a timeline for stabilization. Thank you.
So Jones Historic Charleston Foundation, I completely agree with the Preservation Society and think that this building is worthy of being restored to its original splendor. And there are other structures in the area that have been and were in worse condition. So I'll just echo what Preservation Society said and recommend non-approval of the demolition. Thank you.
Joel Adrian, neighbor, not too close, but live on the peninsula. And only here, I've never spoken against an application. But I walked that house a little over a year ago with a client that wanted to purchase it and restore it and do a small addition on the rear. There's still form, there are still window locations, there are still things that are original to the house, and I don't believe it should be approved for demolition. I also worked on 10 Magnolia, and Bill, I think you were on the board. You know, Lindsay, you might have been, you probably were on the board as well. But that house, the floor system was for the most part gone, termite ridden, we had fallen through the back half of the house, every window was pretty much gone, but when the board walked through, prior to me working on it, the client was trying to get it demolished, the board denied the demolition. And pointed out that the roof form was original, the window locations were original and historic, and that it should be preserved. So I'm just saying that this house can be restored and it can be preserved. It's just gonna take a lot of time, effort, and money. And my client was willing to do that, but we were not successful in a purchase. So.
Thank you. Kevin?
So I just wanted to obviously say a few words and appreciate the favorable comparison to 5 Shepherd Street. I can absolutely 100% testify that a restoration of such a house is totally possible. I would even say 5 Shepherd Street was worse than this, but same size, and can definitely be restored. There's no question about that. I was there this morning. It seemed to me, at least, that really the house itself, the enclosed section is not nearly as far gone as the porch, like sort of along the south side. I'm not even sure that the front porch is original. But if anything, it seems like removing the infill porch would be the way to go, hopefully to reopen it, as I did on Shepherd Street, and have a contributing house again, and definitely not wholesale demolition of the building. That's sort of crazy.
Good evening, Madam Chairman and board members and city staff. My name is Arthur Lawrence, and I was raised up in this community, and was in the fight for this community for years. I'm a community activist in this community, and also a member of the association. And we were fighting for survival, and I heard someone alluded to earlier about OK Corral and the fight. And we have seen worse houses than this one. cottage worse than this. And then show you over the years, what had happened to those cottages we were fighting for. I'm gonna pass it, you can pass it around. And the improvement and what, with the help of the community, and the help of the city, and the help of the different board, we are making a difference. Because what happened on 190 line, what happened on Noonan Street was a disaster. The city lost part of their heritage. And you can see through those photographs and those houses that what people bought it and improved and kept the same fabric and the same look and how it fit into our community. I have watched this piece of property for years, sat on it, and it's decaying. But it can be restored. And it's time to close the door on demolishing Charleston history and the history of the community. These cottages are a big part of Charleston, big part of the West Side Neighborhood Association, and it should stay in shape and have someone to come in and redevelop it. Because if you look at some of those photographs, you see the 2 or 3 Freeman cottages side by side and the beauty of those cottages, how it's set out in this community. But to tear down another piece of this community, like what happened on Lime Street, would be a disaster to the city of Charleston. And I hope you deny this demolition.
Is there anyone else speaking from the public? Okay, Frankie, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
So staff had some observations first. The structure is a Freedman's Cottage, which is a vernacular architecture linked to Charleston and primarily associated with Charleston's African-American community. Structure still retains following character defining features. The 2-bay street facade with side porch, rafter tails on the porch, hand crimped term metal roof. The chief building official has not deemed the structure a danger to public safety. The red fire marshal X on the building does not denote a condemned building, only that the fire marshal declares external operations only. And the report that has been provided states that repairs are cost prohibitive, but this is not a consideration of BAR. Staff conditions, if the board does decide to approve a portion of this, staff recommends at least retaining a significant portion of the front of the structure to keep the street presence of Freedman's Cottage. A proper preservation plan should be submitted to the BAR or to preservation staff for approval, and the plan should include an engineering report that goes beyond the report provided to determine what historic fabric is viable for restoration. Any board motion should include a timeline of submittal. And then as with the previous ones, if any demo is approved, that must wait the 30-day appeal period. Staff recommendation, however, is denial of demolition.
Thank you, Frankie. Asha, before we move into board discussion and vote, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment and the city staff comments and recommendations?
In the past, we have, my dad has actually developed 2 of the properties. One was a vacant property in 76 Cooper Street, and the other was on 10 Strawberry Lane, which actually included some preservation. So we would, we have no preservation if we are recommended to keep a portion, we can do that. The only reason we requested demo, it was strictly based on expert opinion, not my opinion. First, we had I had a general contractor take a walk, and that's the interior photos. I've never set foot inside the photo. All the photos that you have of the interior were actually provided by him. Once he said nothing is salvageable, we went and got a report and a second opinion. And that's the only reason we requested the demolition. But we would abide by anything that the board deems necessary.
Thank you. All right, public comment in the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
May I start?
Sure. I think Bill would appreciate
Please.
that.
Please.
This is another one that I completely agree with preservation groups. This is an example of deferred maintenance and demolition by neglect. The applicant has owned the property for 5 years and has done nothing to take care of it. Google photos from 2021 show that it was already boarded up but not protected, and it didn't have the unsafe X on it. I think we need to deny it. I think we need to have a stabilization plan, preservation plan in place within a certain number of days. And then see actual stabilization work underway within a certain time frame too.
Agree. Don't have anything to add.
There's way too much good stuff left in this building.
Everything in the structural report is fixable.
And we talked about on site, there's some parts of it that could come
Yeah,
off.
there is one, you know, it has a, that's what, south side
Yeah.
addition.
Yeah.
I would have no issue with that small south side addition.
That could be part of a preservation plan when they do a more thorough.
And my worry about that coming off is it holding something?
They're holding it all
So you
together.
have to start from the inside, like you said.
Laura, did
So
you want to
inside
make a
work,
motion?
yeah.
Before I do that, I wanted to just check with my fellow board members about a reasonable time frame before I put something on there. Is 60 days reasonable for having a preservation plan? 60 days?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think that's
to have
generous.
it stabilized within 10 days? My thought was it needs to get stabilized before hurricane season really picks up.
Yeah.
You never know.
That's good.
Make a motion for denial of demolition with a board condition that a stabilization plan be submitted within 60 days, that the building is stabilized, protected within 120 days.
Those two overlap.
Yes,
Okay.
like total 122, like 4 months from now, the building will be at least protected and stabilized.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for denial of demolition with the board condition that the applicant come up with a stabilization plan and that be submitted within 60 days and that the property be stabilized, protected within 120 days. Do I have a second to Laura's motion?
A second.
Thank you, Daryl. I'll put the motion to a vote. Bill,
Yay in favor.
Becky,
Yay in favor.
Laura,
Yay in favor.
Daryl.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair votes with the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 7, 6 F Street. Frankie, if you give us an introduction and overview of the project, please.
Six F Street is in West Side, Council District 4. It is new construction in the historic corridor, requesting preliminary approval for a new single-family dwelling. Yep, we've got aerial locating the property, and I'll just back right over to the applicant.
Hi, I'm Troy Io. I'm representing the owner. I guess the changes that were recommended and requested from the last BAR meeting have been addressed by the architect. Outside of that, I don't have much to say other than they're presented in the plans previous versus now. We hope to have addressed all of the concerns so that the project could move forward.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you, Mr. Io. Do we have anyone speaking? Frankie, do you have city staff comments and recommendations?
Really, staff just had an observation that the previous board conditions have been addressed, and we were recommending a preliminary approval with final review by staff.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Io, did you want to respond to anything in the staff comments?
No, thank you.
All right. Public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I believe all of the board's concerns were addressed. The biggest improvement in my eyes is the revisions to the roof form. I think that was huge.
I have one comment, and this could be more for when it gets to final details with BAR staff. The corner boards were called out as 1 by 4 by 5/4 inch, which doesn't really exist. And to make sure that they're 2 by corner boards and casings so that they receive the siding, so the siding's not sticking out like teeth from the 5/4 material. I think 5/4.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion for preliminary approval with final approval to be done by staff.
We have a motion on the floor for preliminary approval with final review by staff. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
A second.
Thank you, Becky. I'll put the motion to a vote. Daryl?
Yeah, in favor?
Laura?
Yeah.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor?
Becky?
Yay in favor.
Chair votes with the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 8, 78 East Bay Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
'78 East Bay Street is in Charlestown, Council District 8. It is a community 2, circa 1800 in the Old Historic District. Requesting conceptual through final approval of 2 gas lanterns on either side of the front door, and to remove the existing electric lantern, which is above Philip Simmons Grill Work. This is the property's location on East Bay Street. And I'm going to let the applicant.
James Cooper, you're my wife and I are the owners of 7080 East Bay Street, which is the center unit of the structure known as Vanderhorst Row. We're proposing, as just described, to install 2 gas lanterns on either side of our front door. They will be flush mounted with the wall. We will see that any drilling for the gas line would be done through mortar rather than through brick, so that if they were ever taken down, it could easily be returned to the original condition. The lanterns we've selected, I think, are quite consistent with others in the immediate neighborhood. In addition to those of our 2 neighbors who both have gas lanterns opposite their doors, which are not on the front of the building, but are on the sides perpendicular to East Bay Street, but visible from the street. So presumably they received BAR approval at some point in the past. Happy to answer any. The other part of the proposal is to remove an electric lantern which obscures some iron grill work above the door. I don't know how old the lantern is. It clearly was not made to fit the space. It's mounted on a big flat piece of iron that just is slapped right over the grill work. And we think it would be an improvement to go with gas lanterns and get rid of that. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone speaking?
So Jones Historic Charleston Foundation, we reviewed the request for 2 gas lanterns at 78 East Bay Street, and my colleague did a little bit of digging in our archives. So we respectfully oppose the change from 1 central lantern to 2 side lanterns for 2 reasons. First, the change can only be accomplished if holes are drilled through the big brick masonry, and upon close examination of this area of the building, the masonry is pristine. There's no evidence of existing holes to accommodate previous light fixtures on either side of the door, and we believe this modification unnecessarily causes damage to a building that is noted for, and this comes from the archive's splendid Flemish bond brickwork. And we do not recommend approval as such. The second reason we're opposing it is because it alters the historical character of the building. HCF identified early photographs that portray the thriving maritime activity that once characterized this relatively quiet commercial area, and the facade of this building is an excellent example of neoclassical design with its central pedimented pavilion construction with splendid Flemish bonded brickwork and marble detailing. And it bears a strong resemblance to London's terrace architecture of the same period. So it is significant, and I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you.
Is there anyone else speaking? Okay, Frankie, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Staff just had observations that, staff cannot approve any alteration on a category 2 structure, and that moving the existing lantern to either side of the door would better expose the ironwork believed to be from Philip Simmons. Staff recommendation was a final.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Cooper, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comment?
The only thing I would say, this is repetitive, is that any drilling required to install these lanterns we would see was through mortar as opposed to through brick. I can't document this, but I am assuming that on at least one occasion since 1800, this brick has been repointed. So that is visible in certain areas, not in the particular areas we're talking about, but trust that any damage to that could be restored at any time. And again, this does obscure some what we're told is fairly significant ironwork up above. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
May I ask a question of staff? Is there a policy that I'm remembering from way back about changing from electrical and adding gas as being like falsifying history or something?
It was actually not a policy. It was a common practice under a previous city architect.
Okay, so that's no longer a concern.
So Dennis?
Yes, it was under Dennis.
Okay.
It is not backed up by any of our policies approved by the board or any via ordinance.
Okay, that helps. And do we have any information or any other photographs of that existing land? No, that's dates from it or anything?
Got something in what the applicant provided. I don't think so. I think that is all that we had.
There is, I believe, in the package, spec sheets on the lanterns themselves.
I have no problem with the switch from electric to gas.
I think they're appropriately scaled, and then I think if we condition and care is taken that any drilling be done through mortar joints and not from the brick, I'm comfortable with it. In that regard, I see it as being reversible if everything goes through mortar joints.
Yeah. I like that ironwork would be more sense.
Yeah.
Sounds like we've got some consensus. Bill, you're the motion maker this evening.
I will make a motion for final approval with the condition that all fasteners and gas tubing be limited to the mortar joints.
We have a motion on the floor for final approval with the board's condition that all fasteners and gas tubing be limited to the mortar joints. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
I second.
Thank you, Becky. I put the motion to a vote. Daryl?
Yeah, in favor?
Laura? Yeah, in favor. Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Becky?
A in favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passes
He's kinda like a
unanimously.
baby.
Thank you. Agenda item 9, 13 East Bay Street. Frankie, you'll give us an introduction, overview of the project, please.
East Battery, if also in Charlestown, Council District 8. It is also a Category 2, circa 1845 in the Old Historic District, requesting final approval for hardscaping. This is property location on East Battery. I will turn it over to the applicant.
My name is Glenn Keys. I'm the architect for the project. I have with me Barry Keough, who's a landscape architect, and will be presenting the hardscape plan. Thank you, Glenn. Hello, everyone. My name is Perry Keough, a landscape architect. I'll walk you through the drawings that you've seen of the property. This is the front elevation. I guess you have the.
You can use the clicker or you can tell me to go
Of
next.
course, thank you. This is the site plan. Shows the structures. First to the far right is East Battery. There's an existing site plan. When the client purchased the property. It was a series of other rental properties. I'm sure you're familiar with the state of what the house was. These are the landscape drawings. There's a series of existing photographs at the beginning of the project, the date of the landscape spaces, outdoor spaces, driveway sequence in the front of the house. We can come back to this. Here is an overall site plan showing the ambitions of the hardscape elements. I've broken these down into 3 larger detailed sheets that we can see next. And they reference more in detail the individual spaces. This oriented at the bottom of the sheet is East Battery, and there's the front elevation and plan. The portico that you're all familiar with is being restored in the columns in the portico structure. So at that space, I worked at a project 2 doors down from this, the Pink House. And similar condition here. There's such a beautiful use of bluestone, flagstones. There's so much a part of the sidewalk of Charleston. And a beautiful use is on the promenade along the waterfront there, the elevated walk. And the stair that goes up and accesses that walk. There are these beautiful, heavy sort of rusticated step risers. And so using that given element that is directly across the street, referencing that and using that in the property as the dominant material. So repeating more of that same paving at the front of the building here. One of the things we'd like to change is in the existing conditions right now, at some point, they rebuilt pillars. I don't think we've ever seen photographs of gates, but there is a gate pillar right up against the north portico pillar that anchors the corner of the portico there. And we'd like to take that away and push it further west. That would provide the home space for Iron Gate. And that, because of the ambitions of this project and its signature note, is to restore that front portico, and it's going to be an amazing asset to the street and seeing from the harbor. The course sort of geometry of that seen from far away, like a Greek temple. So not to clarify that as much as possible, so that's pushing the gate pillar back to the main mass of the house, so it liberates that corner. So the front entry court, I like to call it, is dominant of that flagstone. Going through the gate is a gravelled space, and you can see 4 cars would park into that space. On the south side, there's a small walkway that circulates around the south side of the house. It's quite close, anchored with the Roper house neighboring next door. It's a series of gates that you go through to get to the back of the property, and Glenn's team has devised the system of walls that will provide a dry environment on the inside, and these panels go up during this moment of a storm. So this was the front. This is the north run of the property that goes from front to back, and that's where we're going to place the swimming pool. Gets the most sun, it's quiet, and it accesses the family rooms from that side. There's a carriage house in the back, and it will be repurposed as a gym and a family space. And again, the dominant material here is the antique reclaimed flagstone, and the border trim on the pool and the spa is going to be granite, pictured at the top of the page, and it's referenced from the house. It's the trim details on the windows. That's about that. There's a small basketball spot there. And the third page is the garden spaces that are on the south side of the house. And this reaches and looks towards the Roper house, which is in the bottom right-hand corner. There's a formal terrace off the kitchen and family rooms on that elevation of the house. And it's the one sort of feature that's formal. I know we're not going to discuss the plantings here today, but that whole sequence of spaces here is an informal arrangement of garden spaces that contrasts heavily with the sort of formal footprint of the house. Again, it's the dominant use of bluestone, and you can see the reference of the bluestone flagstone steps that we're using where there are grade changes. Here's a final detail of the pool. And these are views of that space, which is the one element, of course, of the property that wouldn't be ever considered historic, and it's in that context that we presented this rather minimal use of materials and sort of refined, edited space. To the front back again, thinking of how we might make the property more private and secure in places. We'd like to put a new gate up on the driveway. And for the material of that, we are going to directly relate to the Roper fence next door. And those are pictures on the bottom of that sheet. You can see in the front elevation is the old picture before the earthquake. Actually, that was after the earthquake, maybe, right? With the 3 gates, yeah. So there was always a dominant use of iron along that run. So the front of the house is not going to be closed off. You can approach it the way that you do now, but there will be a gate in the porte cochere and on the driveway side. And so the material here is the wrought iron, and it's to scale to match directly the Roper fence that's there. And this plan shows the layout of where those new element pieces of fence would be incorporated. And that picture at the bottom right is the color picture that shows that pillar that we would like to relocate further deeper into the property and have it not engage with the front portico. That's it.
Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone speaking? All right, Frankie, if you give the city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Okay, staff just had 2 observations. One, that we can't approve alteration for a category 2. And that staff appreciate the very thorough submit. And I will throw in a reminder that any vertical elements will require a permit. For some reason, that's popped up lately with landscaping plan. Staff recommendation is a final approval.
Thank you, Frankie. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the staff comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
I think it's beautifully drawn and presented. I have no issues with any of it.
I have one concern, is the 5-foot storm wall that's being added. And I don't know if I missed it, if there was a detail of that, but that seems like a pretty solid element that is behind a hedge, but I'm not supposed to consider hedges.
You mean as far as being a large wall?
Yeah.
Um,
How is that?
we have very recently made concessions for larger walls that are specifically for flood prevention, especially along the Battery. So we weren't opposing the wall for that purpose. And it is also something that has been brought up that will probably need to be discussed at the board retreat because of climate conditions changing.
I just have a concern about, I understand wanting to protect your property, but I also have a concern about what it then does to everybody else. So. I'm not so worried about that. It's me.
Frankie, we had a very similar one to this not long ago, this
We did.
stretch, did we not? They were also using flood walls and floodgates, correct?
Yes, we had another one, I think it was on South Battery. And then we had a second one, which I think Becky brought, actually. Where we have approved, I think it was 5-foot walls, with flood panels.
I appreciate that they layered it back. I mean, that they left the wrought iron and they tried to layer it, the hedges, so that hopefully actually. And then on the left side, you can see it's actually fairly, I was actually wondering how the enclosure completed itself. It's fairly far back on the left side.
Glenn, what
So I
flood
do
zone?
appreciate that they just didn't do the wall on the.
We're in the worst one zone.
Yeah.
You're in a Lima?
Yeah.
Or
Coastal and B zone.
so then the question I would run into is, can you have that? Can you have a wall that high in that flood zone? Well, I guess that wouldn't be us.
Breakaway.
Yeah, when it goes to permitting, you have to have breakaway and A flood zones and, I mean, A flood zones that are LEMA, limited wave action, and V flood zones. So that's something that they may very well need to look into. Normally we have to do piers with breakaway walls in those two flood zones. You can't do a continuous foundation.
I think it would be the same.
I think that's why you were going down that rabbit hole, right?
That and just the way it pushes water. You know, you have
That's why-
potential for the repercussion effect.
Because then you're pushing the water to the other houses is
I don't think we really have purview.
good point. Yeah,
Becky, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I mean, I'll make a motion for final approval.
We have a motion on the floor for final approval. Do I have a second to Becky's motion?
I'll second.
Daryl raised his hand. You just didn't see him. Eagle eyes.
go with Bill. Won't hurt the feeling.
Put the motion to a vote. Laura,
Is that fine?
Bill,
Yay in favor.
Becky,
Yay in favor.
Daryl.
In favor.
The chair votes to the
No, I won't.
majority and the motion passes 4-4 and 1 against. Thank you both. Agenda item 10, 423 King Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction or overview of the project, please. Oh, I feel like I should recuse.
Under Casey.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I'll grab your form. Four twenty-three Queen Street, this is Garden District, Council District 4, it is unrated circa 1978 in the Old and Historic District, requesting a conceptual approval for removal of existing storefront and construction of new storefront. And this is the property location on King Street. I'll turn it over to the applicant.
Ruben Silver with Glen Keys Architects. At the previous submittal, I think the board was generally okay with the storefront, the new storefront design inside of the bay. We were asked to retain the existing angled bay, the angled top of the bay in each of the storefronts. We were asked to remove the awning from the elevation, and we were asked to restudy with the removal of the awning, restudy how the stucco treatment might work above the store. And so we have the new elevation where we've kept the angle, removed the awning, and then altered we're gonna just expand the existing stucco in the center part of each bay. We kind of angle the top to kind of mimic the angle that's in the actual bay opening. Originally, it was straight across. It looked kind of odd when we kept it straight when we exposed the angle. And we've also done a couple of sections here to just show that this is about a 3/4 inch three-coat stucco over the existing masonry. And just expanding the existing stucco that covers what we think is a cast-in-place concrete beam that creates the actual framing of the storefront. Back to the elevation.
Any questions for the applicant?
No.
Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking? Frank, oh, go ahead.
I'm Mike Hill. I'm actually the neighbor. I'm opening a store, Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, right next door, 415 King Street. I'm also the GC, but so not opposing, just didn't know kind of the plan, and really I'm new to Charleston as well, so I don't know the walking, how, with demolition and kind of reconstruction of the front of buildings. Is the sidewalk going to be shut down, et cetera?
Thank you. Anyone else speaking? All right, Frankie, if you give us city staff comments and recommendations, please.
So we just had the observation that the previous board conditions had been addressed, and we were recommending a conceptual approval with a preliminary and final review by staff. And to answer the neighbor's question, there are permits required for sidewalk closures, and there's normally a sign posted if that is being done in front of that specific store.
Okay.
Oh, did you give your, yes,
I did give.
Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment? All right. Public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote. They did. We asked.
Yeah, I think the keeping the archers, I think, has gone a long ways. I think that helps a whole lot, and getting rid of the high perched awnings too. That was well done on that. I'm still a little on the fence about the stucco projections up, going up the wall. I kind of feel like they kind of give a kind of a strip shopping center look, and I'm just wondering if the building might be better with some individual sign bands up there, but other than that, I'm happy with it.
I have the same exact concerns you have. It almost looks like something I would see like in Charlotte or Atlanta where it pops up like that.
Yeah.
So with the exception of that, I'm pleased with everything.
Are we able to send them to staff
I think so.
so that they can work on that?
I think
on
so.
that? Do you want to craft a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion, conceptual approval with the condition that the stucco vertical extensions are eliminated. And with restudy for signage I think that gives some flexibility on designing something else up there, like there, with preliminary and final review by staff.
All right, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval of the board condition that the vertical stucco extensions be eliminated with restudy for signage. And preliminary and final review by staff. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
Second.
Thank you, Becky. I'll put the motion to a vote. Daryl?
Yay in favor.
Bill?
Yay in favor.
Becky?
Yay in favor.
Chair vote to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Agenda item 11, 40 Montague Street. Frankie, if you give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
Street is in Charleston Village, Council District 8. It is February 2, circa 1891 in the Old Historic District. They're requesting a final approved garden construction to include a pool and hardscape, wood double gates, and a wood utility enclosure. This is the property's location on Montague. I will turn it over to the applicant.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Cindy Fine with Morgan Fine Landscape Architects, and we are working with the homeowners on this project. Just wanted to preface the presentation by, I'm not sure if all of y'all were board members when this was seen. JFM Architects, Julia Martin presented it last October. At that point in time, there was also a small pool house structure associated with it, but it was showing a pool as part of the composition, and it was it did receive conceptual approval back in last October. So we are here are some images of the property. The front portion of the property we're really not doing that much to. You can see this is the hardscape removals plan. So anything that is hatched or shaded is hardscape that's being removed, including just a pebble path in the front, some stone walkways in the back, and then this existing fountain that you can sort of see in that bottom left picture. That is exactly where we would like to put a new pool. So this is the proposed site plan, and it shows the extents of the new proposed new hardscape, as well as the pool, which is roughly 9 by 33 and sits squarely in the center of the property. And it would be surrounded by just a very simple stone coping. The other item that is listed on the application is that we are proposing to, if you see at the top, there at the narrow part of the property, sort of consolidating all of the existing HVAC on the property and pool equipment and creating just a very simple tongue and groove wood enclosure. And all of this really would just not truly be seen in the public realm. It's interior to the property. And that's about it.
Any questions for the applicant?
Actually, just had one question. It looked like the wood fence along the top edge was, it was kind of a height issue. That wood fence is 6 feet, but the new wood gates and wood enclosure was 7 feet. Was there, no, I don't know if there was any.
So we were just trying to maximize the height of that enclosure as much as we could, just because it's visible from their piazza, their porch. So they would be elevated a little bit, and we were just trying to screen out as much of it as we possibly could.
Any other questions? Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking? All right, Frankie, if you give us any staff comments and recommendations, please.
Staff just had a couple observations that the staff can't approve alteration for a category 2. That we appreciate the very thorough submittal, and like the previous one, Any vertical elements will require a permit, just a reminder. But we are recommending final approval.
Thank you, Frankie. Ms. Klein, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised? Okay, comment. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We move into board discussion and a vote.
I think it's a very well executed design and thank you for thorough submittal. As you guys always do. I would like to make a motion for final approval.
We have a motion on the floor for final approval. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
Second.
Put the motion to a vote. Laura?
Yay in favor.
Bill?
Yay, in favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Becky?
Yay in favor.
Chair votes with the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, agenda item 12, 176 Smith Street. Frankie, who give us an introduction overview of the project, please.
176 Smith Street is in Kenneborough, LA Borough, also District 6. It is a category 4 circa 1882 in the Old City District, requesting conceptual, preliminary and final approval for minor alteration to exterior, including proposed dormer and changing door openings into window. This is the property's location on Smith Street. And I will hand it over to the applicant.
My name's Evan Gonzalez. This is 176 Smith Street. Just some minor alterations that we're proposing. There are two what we believe are non-historic doors at the first floor and second floor piazzas on the side that we're proposing to revise the windows. Give me 1 second, I'm just gonna get to the elevation. Keeping the same opening, but going with a window to get light in. I mean, they're both solid doors. And then replacing the front door with a French door look, but single swing door with side lights as well to bring light into that main space. And then they also have a current third floor loft space. Right now, it's just a ship's ladder up to the loft. So we're exploring putting a small little winding stair, and then adding a dormer for egress requirements to be able to, they're a growing family, so being able to occupy that as another sleeping quarters. That's pretty much it.
Any questions for the applicant?
It kind of concerns the dormer. How far off is that gable window in meeting egress requirements?
The front one?
Yeah, front gable.
It is a good question. It's a pretty small window, and we're going back with one that is meeting that requirement. There's also several on the block of this exact same housing typology where they have added the dormer in this location. So my assumption is that a lot of people are occupying that front attic space.
So is the dormer only for egress?
It's for egress and light and natural ventilation. They have some musty problems up in the attic space.
And that small of a window, it looked like it was only about 4.5 feet tall. You can meet egress with that as a double hung?
I mean, we'll definitely be finalizing that as part of our submittal, but I believe.
Any other questions?
There was one other, I'll respond to that one.
Is there anyone speaking?
I am Lisa Jones, Historic Charleston Foundation. We've reviewed the request for the proposed dormer and windows at 176 Smith Street. And we recommend that the dormer be clearly below the roof ridge and move to be less visible from the street. Thank you for your consideration.
Is there anyone else speaking? All right, Frankie, if you give us any staff comments and recommendations, please.
Staff just had observation that we appreciate that the dormer lines up with the windows below, but the offset placement is slightly offered. Staff recommendation would be a denial of the dormer, but approval of other fenestration alteration.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Gonzalez, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comments?
Yes. I think there was a letter from preservation noting the historic roof. It's been recently discovered that it has been changed to a copper roof. It's been coated several times. So just wanted to make that point. And then as far as moving it back, the loft space is existing and it's just to the front of that, the front part. So we could move it back, shift it a few feet, but really can't move it to the back of the house, as requested.
Thank you. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is not closed. So move into board discussion and a vote.
Sure, if it impacts you guys, but the doors are visible from the public right away. And so the switch out, you won't be able to see that.
So I can't hear you.
The doors are visible from the public right away. So that changed, I mean, I don't know that impacts. I didn't have a problem with it.
I think that the dormer detailing, if it, well, I think it's important to be able to add egress, and I understand needing to have that extra living space, and adding a dormer makes sense. The detailing needs to be worked out. It, to me, feels too chunky on the sides, and
Looks wide.
dormers are just a little one of my pet peeves, that just to study like some of the pictures you included in your as precedents, study those. They're just so much more narrow or vertical, I should say, where the casing and the corner board are one and the same. So it just narrows it up a little bit, maybe a little less on the eave trim would help it. And then I think we may just have to look at the window, and then I'm worried that it needs to be a casement window. We can make a casement window kind of look like a dormer. But it's, I mean, like a double hung, but it's always gonna look a little different, which maybe is good that it shows us it's not original. Those are just my thoughts.
I have no concern with the door window of that type of illustration. Philosophically, I kind of struggle with the dormer because we're adding something that wasn't there historically.
Which is better than
And
At least we can guide what the dormer looks like.
but I agree with everything that you said about the proportions of the dormer. I mean, you're spot on all of that. The reason why I brought up the gable end window, I was just kind of wondering which would be the lesser of the two evils. I mean,
change that to the casement.
maybe change that to a casement.
I was actually wondering about the rear part, whether you could have been more creative and gotten.
But it's open. Can I ask the applicant a question? Is that space at the center, at the end of the piazza where it's dead ends, is that space vaulted up to that attic?
It's here, right here, this is all
Yeah.
vaulted, yeah,
Okay,
currently.
yeah.
And there's like
And then
the
the other,
original roof.
the far end's not accessible.
That's right. This is a lower gable roof and then a shed roof that's a little bathroom addition that kind of cantilevers out.
So the lower gable is too low for egress.
Yeah,
And you can't get to it right now.
yeah. And there's a fireplace that right in this portion that kind of breaks it off.
I'm opposed to one dormer right at the front.
Since I've been on the board, they've been pretty agreeable to let people put dormers on just in the last 7 or 8 months. But it just seems a little awkward with the one dormer up front. We've had 2 or 3 of these come through and we haven't.
One on the
Usually
lower
they're
peninsula.
repetitive, like, yeah, we
More
did,
colonial.
but it was
Yeah.
3 of
It
them.
was 3.
Yeah, it was the 3 along the front. It was a composition, it was a nice composition.
Yeah.
And it showed the precedent.
Yeah.
for
Okay,
that
here's a
composition.
question, does it make any sense to add multiple dormers, even if they're not all used for egress, so that you have a rhythm?
I would be more
I'd be more
inclined
in
to.
favor if it was a good composition. And if it, I didn't pay attention when I went to the site about precedent.
There were some pictures in the application, I didn't get to go by there.
I think it's 186 Smith that has the single dormer on the same block.
No, let's see. I've got two. Oh, wait, or is that 184? No, this is 186. So it looks like 186 has two dormers.
It has to be a casement.
It would have to be a cake combination.
So I think the one on the front of the casement.
It could.
I think they should look at that first.
I agree, I mean.
Not a
the
fan
one
of
dormer
the
just
single
feels
dormer.
like I understand the need
Same
for.
size, I understand.
I was struggling with the evolution versus.
But if you could get it with the front.
I'm okay with it. Here. Maybe defer the dormer?
Yeah, maybe we approve the fenestration on the, defer the dormer for restudy for.
Yeah.
Did you just make a motion?
Not yet, I'm thinking through this. We do that, can we just say as board discussion? Or do I need to be specific on this one?
Quite honestly, I think we depend on the applicant. So did you
catch all the?
Did you catch all the board
Yeah, the
discussion?
only thing is going to the multiple dormers. Understand decreasing, I think that was just to get a little bit more square footage, but that's totally fine. But would the board accept multiple dormers?
I think it
Or
would
like
be
two?
worth looking at,
I
is
think-
what we'd be open to looking at it, so it's more of a, more consistent with historic precedent.
Yeah.
And consider studying the casement at the front gable as an option too,
Okay.
which would be a cheaper, easier option to do.
Yeah.
Less light, but, okay, so I'm gonna make a motion.
Read what I think your motion is.
Okay, go ahead. You don't even have to say it.
Deferral of the dormer for restudy based on board discussion and approval of the fenestration alterations.
Yes, and those were the only two components, right, that we were reviewing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's my motion.
all right. Do I have a second to Laura's motion?
My second.
Daryl, put the motion to a vote. Becky,
Yay in favor.
Bill,
Yeah, in favor.
Laura,
Yay in favor.
Daryl.
Yeah, in favor.
Chair vote to the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Could you read it to me again? Make sure I have it.
Deferral of the dormer for restudy based on board discussion and approval of the fenestration alterations.
I wasn't
13,
quite sure.
5 Limehouse Street. Frankie, if you'll give us an introduction or overview of the project, please. Not all these houses have multiple.
5 Limehouse Street is in Charlestown, Council District 8. It is a category 3, circa 1885 in the Old Historic District. Requesting a final approval to extend the south and west elevation exterior walls of original house. Touch and adding window. This is the property's location on Limehouse Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Jeff Pardon, Marsh Bluff Builders. Essentially, we're just, we have a hyphen issue. It's wonderful. Downstairs has 3 doors leading to the same exact location. And upstairs here is a door, and this wonderful glass block window. Our proposal simply is to get rid of these areas here and just to bring them out and leaving the existing corners in place for the old house, just to get a more functional space inside. Obviously, these are the existing conditions for the hyphen here, first and second floor. Just pulling these out and just adding a simple, sorry, it's the existing glass block window, door you're looking straight at, and then changing to just a simple, not a transom, but it's just the upper sash, essentially from these windows that are here, moving them over, and
That's pretty much it, guys. No more.
Any questions for the applicant? Thank you. Do we have anyone speaking?
Historic Charleston Foundation, we reviewed the request for 5 Limehouse, and we are opposed to the enclosure of this part of the piazza. It would it would alter the wraparound porch and therefore impact an important historic feature. Thank you.
Anyone else speaking? Frankie, if you give us a city staff comments and recommendations, please.
Yes, ma'am. This was originally a permit that was submitted, and these were the comments that staff provided as a markup to the permit. Just for a little backstory, so at the time we said that the proposal could not be approved at a staff level. Then that permit, as it eliminated the existing hyphen and altered the conceptual relationship between the house and piazza. In order for staff to approve, the infill would have to be set in from the corner, matching the end of the balustrade and preserving the corner and corner board of the historic house. And the proposed window would also need to differ from the historic house and the rear addition. Staff condition for approval is still that the infill should be set in from the corner, matching the end of that balustrade and preserving the corner board. Staff recommendation is a conceptual approval with board and staff conditions and preliminary and final by staff.
Thank you, Frankie. Mr. Burton, did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the public comment or the city staff comment?
Certainly. She's right, we did come in, just sending that wall, straight back, and she made the recommendation to leave the corner in place. So we came back to the board with that corner left in place, pushing that wall in as far as possible to still make all the interior space, useful. As of right now, I understand the concern, but from the street, it's got about 5% visibility, and it'll still look like the porch wants to turn. But it's much more usable for, the homeowner, obviously, to have it set up the way that we proposed. Additionally, the addition that's on the backside is not the original portion. It's been added to from the original portion of the house, which kind of started the clunkiness there in that hyphen. So it was pulled further, to the left side of the property than original, and you can see that via the Sanborn maps if you go back and look. However, we're just asking to we clean up the space. That's all.
Thank you. All right, public comment and the applicant's presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
From what I'm reading with what I'm seeing in the photographs and what I could see from the street when I was out there, it looks like it was the typical situation where you had a rear L and you had the porch return that tied into the rear L, and then people have come along and they've globbed stuff on top on the face of the rear L and just made a kind of a mess back there.
Good words this evening. Glob.
So, exactly. So with this, is it better to fill a portion of that, just try to kind of even some of that stuff out, or do you respect that that's the last visible portion of the rear L there, and with the porch returned into it? So I'm a little on the fence about all this, guys.
I'm struggling with this one because the 2 or 3 that have come up since I've been on the board, we've turned them down. I mean, like Eddie Pava recently. It seems to be a big sensitive issue in the city to infill porches anywhere. So
it does clean things up, but at the same time, it flattens out the facade a little bit too. So you do lose that.
Lose the back corner.
Yeah,
that's the problem. It looks like when they did the laundry room, they messed up the geometry.
Yeah,
it's kind of, and they messed up the access to the doors.
Yeah.
You know how I feel.
And I'm generally the same way.
Sort of pro-hyphen. I just think the loss of the back corner I mean, I'm in agreement with staff.
Am I not
So are you
remembering the?
okay with, as long as it's set in from the back corner a smidge?
That's what I'm just not viewing this so much as a, I mean, it's a portion of porch infill, but it's. Maybe I'm not remembering the Eddie Fava application recently, but was that a full section of porch?
Like, you can't, like, you don't wanna lose this corner is really visible from the street.
Okay, so
But
you wanna
the part
maintain
at the
that
back,
corner,
yeah.
and you wanna maintain both corners.
Yeah,
is
it's
what
what
you're
you
saying.
maintain both,
That's what I was leaning towards also.
front building and the back building.
I think that shows the evolution.
The old doors,
What?
or does that not matter because it's not visible? Are
What?
we concerned about losing the
Is,
doors in that area?
is
or-
that visible at all from the public right away?
They're
The
like on the-
window and the door.
They're kind of.
The
behind
door to the
doors.
laundry room's not.
Oh.
The door that goes
Can we
into.
flip back?
I don't think they're visible.
Yeah.
I'm just curious.
This corner is visible.
I kind of.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But the door,
I don't-
the doors.
the first
I don't
one,
think
no.
any of these, no, that's not even a door, actually.
The.
The laundry room's not even a door.
Or maybe.
Yeah, and in agreement with Historic Charleston, you know, this house has been, it's been whittled away at so much, and then you have this existing condition. Do we want to get rid of that existing historic condition? Where the piazza turns and dives into the L?
I think somebody extended the laundry room at some point, which kind of messed up the
Yeah,
door access. It's-
So even if the corners were maintained, if we allowed some, you still think?
I still think because, I mean, that is such a strong characteristic of a Charleston single house. With a rear L. Charleston single houses, but once you got above the basic, 2 rooms up, 2 rooms down. And got into slightly larger houses, they generally always had a rear L with a piazza that wrapped and died into that L, and that condition still exists here. The problems are with the addition that were put on.
What do you guys think?
I agree with Bill that I wanna see a strong enough turn, like the. And keep the L, and I think that if you pull it back, like you were saying, behind what the 2 corners, you're only gaining a foot and a half or something, it's not. Which means you're not losing that much of the L. If you keep it behind both. Granted, one of them is a later addition.
But I think that, so Bill, you're not comfortable with any of it. Harold?
No, we had one was it last week with the architect that was either the last meeting or the one before. and
Ashley, yeah.
Ashley's, yeah. And it was a similar scenario where we are asking her to go back and create the existing corner and represent it to us, so.
So many of the rear Ls and porch returns over the years prior to VAR being inserted have been lost, and
Is this denial?
that's the way I'm thinking. I'd like to make a motion for denial.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for denial. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
Second it.
You, Daryl, I'll put the motion to a vote. Becky?
Yay in favor.
Laura?
Yeah, in favor.
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Daryl?
You in favor?
Chair votes the majority and the motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. Something would get approved.
I think it needs to happen in the cleaning up the additions that have been put on it, you know.
Cleaning up the later additions,
Yeah,
the laundry room.
I would be happy to entertain changes to it.
But the only way, sorry, I'm the homeowner. The only way to clean up the earlier addition is to remove it, which I certainly won't do.
I can't really sit here tonight and design, you know. Yeah.
Just,
No, that's why I was just asking if
Yeah.
there's a suggestion.
It seems like on a lot of these, the board wants you to retain the two corners of the building. And that's a good starting point, wouldn't you say, Bill? So losing the corner of the back building is a no starter kind of across the board on
I'm
Oh,
a lot of
leaving
projects.
Yeah, and on this in particular, I think what we're saying is where you've got the L,
The return.
you need that visibility from the street. You see and you know that piazza is turning on around. It's not just a matter of, like in a lot of cases, we just want at least like 6 or 12 inches of a corner. But with the piazza going around, we want to see that piazza continuing. So we don't want to chop it off.
thank y'all. Okay, agenda item 14. Excuse me, agenda item 14 Jasper Street.
Mayor Radcliffe, Council District. February 4, 1852, in the Old City District, is requesting a conceptual approval, the addition of 2 windows on the first floor, north elevation, and the addition of a garden follow. This is the property's location on Jasper Street. And I will turn it over to the applicant.
Hello. Shelley Clark Glidewell, Clark Glidewell Architect. This project is very unique because it's pushed, the main house is pushed all the way back. Here on the,
Oh, you have to point it to.
That's not me,
Yeah.
that pointed at
Travis'
Travis.
computer.
Oh, okay. All right, I can see it a little better with you. That's what I'm doing.
Aim at
I'm getting
Travis.
older.
I wanna do that all the
We're getting older. All right, okay. Well, see, this is the main house and it is pushed 56 feet.
The laser doesn't show up on the screen for us, so don't worry about the laser.
So if you're gonna point, then you use that one. Sorry.
Figured I'd let you know.
Yeah,
Well,
no.
I can just tell you that the building is pushed 56 feet back from Jasper Street. So it's very unique situation. And the front part of the house is from 1852 and it's the historic portion of the house. Then the large portion in the back, which right here is an addition that was put on, a poorly designed addition put in 1991. And what we're asking for today is on the north elevation, we're asking for these, which way it's supposed to be, these 2 windows up at the top. I can't tell, there it is, right there. You see it right there. Those two adding 2 windows into the what they're calling the dining room, which would probably go in the living room. And then and this is the front and here. And this is the north elevation. So we're looking at these 2 lower windows right here. Adding these windows, we actually have an existing window that's right here right now that we're asking to shift over to here. But these are the 2 new windows. Right? Again, basically adding for light. It's actually a very tiny house. It has 8-foot ceilings barely, and so they're in the piazza on the other side does create a lot of creates it less light to come into the room. And so that's what they're asking for, and we're asking to do Marvin true divided lights with the interior energy panel at this site. And the other thing is to do the garden folly, because we have because of course the property is pushed so far back, there's absolutely no room in the back to put the folly. And so they do need a place to put it, because she's a master gardener, so she does use she needs this space. And what we're doing is I actually designed it very simply, which is basically the house is as simple as it can be. Beyond, I mean, there's such minor trim and everything in the house. And so what we're trying to do is just create a building that a little folly. It's not decorative as say the word folly. We're right here in the front elevation, but it is, we're trying to keep the eave in line with the piazza floor here, and just to be simple and not compete with the main house. We did look at possibly having a gable end facing the street, but it's wider than it is in the front than it is in the side. So actually it just appears better if we have the small and towards basically, you know, you can see it when you walk down the street. So it fortunately just seemed better to do it this way. And it's also, I guess I just want to say that this area, it's got some very simple houses. They're not overly done. They're just simple houses. This house was as small and can be, and so that's what we were trying to, the whole idea was just to basically keep it the same. We were creating a space behind. Go to a very preliminary sketch by Robert Chestnut here. And what we're trying to do up here is just create this private area back here so we can have a private, at least something on the outside that's private. And so actually we have the back side of this opens up to this, and it creates a little space here. And then of course we need to get parking in here. We did pull this forward more than what's shown in this preliminary plan. We pulled it forward and so we could miss the neighbor's window. And so that was pulled 7 feet forward, and we got the zoning variance for. And so we were just trying to get the parking and have a small little area in the front with with a fountain and such. But it's very simple. That's all we're trying to do, nothing elaborate.
Any questions?
Concerning, it looks like you're removing all the windows and replacing them, or?
We are.
Okay.
They're actually, the windows themselves are really not very well done. They never were very well done. And the house is, the house was falling apart in 1991. It was one of those ones that was a totally, it's amazing it even was saved. And then they put this terrible addition on the back. I don't know if you can see any of this, but
That's pretty.
but it's this addition right here. It literally looks just like that.
Yeah.
It's nothing. It's a great giant space for them inside their house, but it's not a very nice addition, and it's literally done with, the windows themselves. They saved some of the storm windows, like the top sash, and then they made a lower sash, and then they took all of the ropes and pulleys and everything out. And there's like a couple of the upper sashes have some historic glass, but they literally move back and forth, and there's not there's nothing, it's just not very good condition. There's hardy board put on the house, and there's just a small portion of historic wood left on the second floor of lower half of the second floor of the piazza. The
Um,
house has been, I just don't think that it was done very well at all.
So you don't think that any of the windows in the historic mass are really salvageable and repairable? Okay.
I think they're just,
Also-
they appeared to try to do it in 1991, but
Right,
they didn't do a
right.
very good job.
Also notice there's a note, there are notes on the plans about putting hardy on the historic mass.
There already is hardy.
There's already.
And actually, there's a mix of press wood. It's like melting away. I've never seen this. I don't know what it is. It's just like rotten. And then that someone, they obviously had problems because someone came in and, you know, stuck hardy board underneath it. And so they have a mismatch of everything on this building everywhere. And it's just, so we're just saying to go back with the 3/4 house next, on 16 Jasper.
Are you taking all the hardy off the historic mass and redoing it?
I think except for that small section that is the historic wood, which is on the second floor. So it would actually be, see, right here, it's literally underneath that window to the floor. And it's wonderful wood. It's like this thick. It's so thick, but that's like the only thing historic. There's not even much left inside the historic. The original stair is gone. There's a wonderful wood wall that's just in there. That's the only historic thing really that's of value to keep is this historic wall on the interior.
Any other questions?
Yes, have you checked on the, I think it's the north elevation? Where you're adding, yeah, the elevation where you were adding windows? That looks like it's a 0 lot line and.
It's not 0, but it's 2. And we have, I totally talked to building department, and what we did was there is existing windows on that side now. And so what we're doing is we're moving all the existing, so we can use Marvin windows in the historic house and with true divided lights, and anything new we put in, they're 1 hour fire rated windows. And so we meet the square inches of what, what was there before.
Okay, that sounds good. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. There is no one speaking from the public. Frankie?
Okay, staff had a couple observations that we have no issue with height scale and mass proposed. And because Bill asked me for some reason this morning, Red Cliff Place is a public right of way. That was mostly so I remembered to tell you. Staff needs for approval due to prominent location front of the house. We thought the proposal needed a higher degree of architectural direction. BD's wording was be more whimsical. The west and north elevation need additional detailing. And she also, I don't think this, she threw this as a suggestion, maybe not so much a condition, maybe a less rectangular form would be appropriate. Staff recommendation is a deferral for restudy of architecture direction.
Was that just for the folly?
Just
or
for the
what-
folly.
But everything else would do.
We didn't have an issue with the other changes.
Okay.
Due to all the other alterations.
Got it. Did you want to respond to or clarify anything raised in the staff comments?
We don't like to call it a shed. So, I mean, I know it's not very detailed, and we did look at different things for the roof, but again, we were trying not to overpower the house. I guess that was it. Basically what we're trying to do.
Thank you. All right, public comments in the applicant presentation is now closed. We'll move into board discussion and a vote.
Come on, it's a folly. You talk about it.
Well, I mean, the folly, the building is just so simple. I mean, you don't want to do too much to it. And now, I mean,
No, but it could be like
yeah. I think it could be more than what it is now.
So does a folly always have to be whimsical? I think is a good word. I'm actually thinking of the folly that there was a trash enclosure on East Bay. Do you remember this? That was really.
Oh, yes, the
Yeah.
one like behind the restaurant.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
If
That
it was
was
just
a
a,
fancy
yeah,
trash enclosure.
that was a fancy trash enclosure, yeah.
I do remember that.
So I guess my question is, because keeping it simple with the house, if they called it a shed, would you have the
Oh my
same?
goodness.
No, but would you have, but I guess, so is the word folly, is that what is making everyone want a more whimsical building, even though if the applicant had called it a shed, would you have the same comment? Because I think if,
Maybe not, maybe you should just call it an accessory structure.
well, and for purposes of, and of course the applicant can call, the owner can call it whatever she wants when it's built, but that's.
If it helps clarify staff comments, we were going with pushing the more whimsical statement because we don't typically approve things like accessory buildings and
In the
sheds in
front.
front.
Right.
So we were going, okay, but we do approve follies in the front.
Yeah, but I get the site conditions here that the house is pushed back.
I do think that the gable end is the more interesting end.
Yeah.
And I think that's what should be turned to the street.
I know.
Um,
I don't love the shed.
I don't love the bump out, for the door. I would do a simpler shape with the gable end towards the street. Maybe some, maybe a different type
Thinner,
of
maybe
roof.
the fascia on the roof being, the eave being, or the roof form being so thick is throwing me off. Maybe it just
It's
needs.
more shed-like.
I know it's still, it's conceptual.
Yeah.
I get it. So as you go forward, maybe that would, the detail, maybe it just all comes in the details.
Maybe the siding of the, are we calling it a shed now?
No,
Maybe
it's a folly,
yeah,
it's in the front of the house.
Maybe it becomes some sort of a different siding than the main house. Maybe it's a little board and batten building. Or something,
Maybe for precedent setting, we say if it's a folly and site conditions are as they are, then we'll consider approval of an accessory structure.
maybe it's just such a little small building, maybe it gets a little metal roof instead. Just little things like that, I think, can go a long ways,
They have fun with it.
Yeah. You had to decide which way to go. And it just decided to go simple instead of, we totally talked about the folly craziness.
I think you could have a simple form, but then just kind of
The details.
jazz up the details and materials.
Yeah.
I mean, Frankie, you can kind of step in here and tell me if I'm stepping on toes or not, but if the party is coming off of the building, why doesn't the owner just want to go back with wood instead? I mean, I don't care about the 90s edition, but the historic mass. Just
Because maintenance.
maintenance.
I'd say
It's
maybe.
usually what it is.
But are you going back with the thick stuff? Okay,
Yeah,
well, at
okay.
least you're getting the thick stuff.
Thick stuff, no texture to it.
No.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay.
I'm not a fan of it.
I gotta. Yeah. Did,
Somebody want to make a motion?
Bill, you might be the motion maker.
All right, I would say, does anyone have any concerns about the site plan? It's still kind of conceptual. I think it was looking pretty good.
Is that, I don't think that's.
Are we reviewing part of the site now, or is that going to come back later?
There's some stuff about proposed fence, but that wasn't on the application.
That can be reviewed at staff due to the category, so.
We're just looking at the windows, and the folly.
Okay.
And staff was okay with the windows. It sounds like
Yeah.
we didn't have a real issue, so.
I would say. You guys want to see the shed / folly back?
Can somebody just send it to me so I can see how cute it becomes?
I'll take your phone number.
Okay,
You think Shelley can work with staff?
I think so.
Yeah.
I would say conceptual approval with preliminary and final review by staff with conditions that the garden folly Be jazzed up.
Be more whimsical.
Um,
Well, how about so staff condition one? I don't know if it's necessarily a higher level of architectural direction, but generally be more whimsical.
yeah, I think, I think what staff said, is fine, but keep in mind, we don't want to overpower a very, very simple house.
Yeah, we were
Um,
struggling to word it
yeah.
with such a small structure. That's why I ended up with multiple things, because it was like, well, maybe this or this.
This is one thing we have not discussed, but on the back side of the house, since that is visible, I think just a support column underneath that cantilever, you know, I just think it looked kind of funny, just hanging out there by itself. I mean, it may not be needed structurally, but I think some
It's so
visual.
tight back there, but we
Well, you
can,
got a
we,
bracket of
I
some
totally
kind?
have thought that.
Yeah, yeah.
I just like, you know,
There
it's
may
not gonna be
be
much.
Just like a bracket or something
Just
that
a
makes it look.
I have
almost
thought
like
of
it's
putting a
just
big
like-
bracket back there, maybe we can make some whimsy back there.
Okay.
Maybe that'll be the architectural element.
No, there you go. Okay, where do I leave off at? Okay.
So you were gonna do conceptual approval with preliminary and final to staff, and you started with board conditions, but it was really the staff condition.
Okay.
Are there any, do you agree with staff conditions?
Yes.
Okay. Staff
And, but I
condition.
would like to add, provide some sort of visual support to the rear cantilever. And make it clear we're not reviewing the site, correct?
Not today.
Okay, so that, I had a few comments on that.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor for conceptual approval. With staff conditions and a board conditions to provide a visual support to the rear cantilever and preliminary and final review to staff. Do I have a second to Bill's motion?
Second.
You, Becky? A motion to the vote. Laura? Yay, in favor. Daryl?
You in favor?
Bill?
Yeah, in favor.
Becky?
In favor.
Chair votes to the majority and the motion passes unanimously.
Yay.
Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Oh, I heard Laura. All in favor? Yay.
What?
And opposed, motion passes.